Of all the ones I wrote, my favorite was Ava's Man. Because, now, don't get me wrong, All Over But the Shouting was the most important to me because it was a love story for my mama. You know, Prince of Frogtown was the best written. The little book y'all read was probably the best collection of stories, you know, individual stories. But Ava's Man was about my grandfather who made liquor in the foothills of the Appalachians for 30 years and never got caught. You know, you tell that story in Kentucky, you're going to get a hand. You know. Y'all got legal liquor up here, you know. But he raised 7 children in the teeth of the Depression, lost 1 child to simple dehydration. Couldn't get a doctor, couldn't afford one. At a time when Governor Talmadge in Georgia said of the poor people in the mountains, let them starve. So, you know, that one, there's some sadness in it, but it was lighter somehow on my soul because I was just finding me a grandfather. You know, I just went out and interviewed all my people and made me a grandfather because he died the spring before the summer I was born. So, you know, hearing stories of his heroics were hard to beat. Like I was reporting the book and I got it done and we were at number 4, no, I think number 7 on the New York Times bestseller list, and I was all full of my little self. And I called my Aunt Juanita, who had been a fountain of information for the book, and said, Aunt Juanita, what did you think of the book? And she said, it was okay. And I said, well, what was wrong with it? And she said, hon, I wish you could have gotten that book about that time that Daddy ran over Clem Ritter's head. All stories in my family are punctuated with the words, my God. So I said, my God. I said, why didn't you tell me that? Because my whole right and life flashed before my eyes. Because I had made this guy into the number 7 best-selling book in America. And that don't sound that good, does it? Like if you said, yeah, Alabama was the number 7 team in the country last year. That don't sound good at all. Anyway, I digress. But, you know, here we are sitting on top of this story, and I find out he has committed vehicular homicide. I said, maybe you better tell me what happened. And she said, hun, ain't much to tell. She said, we was riding back from Rome, Georgia during the Depression, and you know, Daddy always drove with his foot down flat on the floorboard. We was going down a dirt road, and dust was just billowing up behind the truck, and here she come, running out through the weeds and the trees, all wild-eyed and crazy acting, and she ran right out in front of the truck, and Daddy hit her. And I said, my God. And I said, what happened then? She said, well, we all got out and we looked down and Daddy run over Clem Ritter's head with his truck tire. My God. What'd you do then? She said, well, hon, there wasn't nothing we could do. Looked down at her. Her head was all whomp-sided. Those of you who are products of the Kentucky public school system, whomp-sided is W-H-O-M-P, sided. I said, what'd you do then? She said, well, wasn't nothing we could do. Daddy picked her up and slung her back off in the weeds. My God. What happened then? You didn't try to help her. You didn't call anybody. You didn't drive anywhere. You didn't check her injuries. She said, no, we had to go home. Mama had supper done. My God. Said, you didn't do anything for her. And she said, no, hon, we didn't have to. See, long about dark, we looked out in the yard, and here she come. Staggering and weaving back up into the yard. Her head was still all whomp-sided. And it was 20 minutes into that conversation before she bothered to tell me that Clem Ritter was a dog. So those of you that were laughing and feeling bad about it, you can sleep good tonight. Will you be my timekeeper? Because I don't have my watch. How much to? About 10, 15-ish. I wanted to be a pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. Except I sucked. I'm one of them. No, I won't even tell that story. That looks too bad. Let's just say I had a hanging curveball. I wanted to be a UPS driver for a little while because they get to wear short pants, can drive as fast as they want to, and can park any damn where they please. But no, I mean, I thought maybe I could be, and I say this with all seriousness, I thought maybe I could be the sports editor of the local paper if I worked real hard. And that would have been fine. That would have been fine with me. So would have been being a UPS guy. It would have made my mother happy. I would have lived at home. I would not have been dumped by 47 good women. Because it's hard to get out of a marriage in Calhoun County, Alabama. I know. You know, the worst thing I'd have to worry about was, this actually happened to me. Let me ask y'all something. If you leave your car somewhere, y'all know what I mean? Like you just leave it somewhere. How long is it before your people know all about where it was at? How long? 5 minutes? Right. I can leave my Ford Bronco parked out in front of the Gamecock Motel for 2 hours on a Thursday afternoon, and everybody in Calhoun County and greater Northeast Alabama knows where I'm at. And all I'd have been doing was trying to get some beef jerky, you know. They have a store right there. It's hard to tell that lie and stand here and when you're wired as much as I am, because if lightning comes down, it'll get me sure. But no, I never thought. I never thought that. I thought when I finally wrote my first book, I knew that I didn't want to write one of those quietly elegant little books that a small number of people read. If I was going to write the story of my mother, I wanted it to be a sledgehammer. So when it succeeded, then I began to think, well, heck, this will be easy. You know, and we've had some great luck with the books, and I'm fortunate and blessed to have book contracts, because wanting to write a book and getting to write a book are different things. But I never thought anything like that. I did want to buy my mama a house. You know, that was my great ambition. That don't make me a good guy. That's setting the bar very low. Well, because at the time, you know, they would wear a mask. They'd take a bandana and wrap it around their mouth. But you got to understand something. If you are in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s working in a mill where every second is production time, you get sick, they give your job away. It's not like, well, them people should have tried harder on their own to take better care of themselves. There was no ventilation at all except a window. And they didn't even have breathers, you know. It was white air. Think about that. White air. And they choked to death. And it's not like one of them choked to death or 10 of them choked to death. Generations of them choked to death. The ones that did not lose their fingers, hands, and arms. So, you know, there just wasn't the technology. But mostly they died because there were things that mill owners could have done. They did a thing called blowing off, where you would take compressed air and blow it through. You know, you could blow off to get the cotton fibers off yourself and out of your hair, but you could also sweep up and clean up and cut down on the amount of white air. And there were things that could have been done, but they cost money. And these people's lives didn't. One of the owners, one of the stockholders in the mill said once of labor, if I lose a mule or a horse, it costs me a tremendous amount of money. I lose a worker, it costs me nothing at all. So this is the life they lived. And they paid for it awfully. Why am I teaching there? They asked me to. It's kind of like dating. Well, we had some nibbles from places to teach, but basically it's like dating. You know, you can say, well, let's see, I want that one and this one and that one. Or if you're me, I want this one, that one, this one, that one, that one, that one, and all of them. But the one that you tend to have is the one that will have you. And we had nibbles from some pretty fine schools, but Alabama made me an offer that I could not refuse. They made me a wonderful offer where I could teach and still write my books and still travel and do this. And my students are pretty good. I get at least a couple of writers every year that can work anywhere. And I get some that are going to be just fine. And every now and then I get one who walks up and says, you know, I'd like to come to class next week, but I'm in charge of my sorority's decorations for the Halloween carnival. And then I think I might just feel another wrinkle developing on my face or another hair fall out. But I like teaching writers, and we have good ones there. And that's why I would, I also am 2 hours from my mama's front door, which means if I were to go to another college, it would have to be closer. And it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard to find closer, because I'm not going to live far away at this point in her life. I mean, I like to be teaching in Fiji.